Hello, and welcome to our on-demand sessions here at Virtual Connect. Today we'll be talking about service provider solutions and futures. My name is Dan DeBacker, Senior Director of Product Management here at Extreme for our switching, routing, and automation solutions. So let's jump in. Quickly, we'll go cover the disclaimer just to say, hey, we're going to be talking about some futures. Want to make sure we're covered from a legal perspective. So we'll start with market observations. So first we'll start with internet usage. This should be of no surprise to anyone. Usage is going up, and it's going up exponentially. So as the world continues to evolve, as we continue to connect more and more things to the internet, the amount of bandwidth is just going up at such a rapid pace. Again, I'm not really telling you anything you don't already know, just a bunch of really good data here to talk about what's happening, where's it happening. We all know why it's happening. If we look at the global device connection growth, again, the CAGR on this, as you can see across the entire world, is just going up at a phenomenal rate. And really what this means is that we're putting more and more stress on service provider networks. So the need for more bandwidth, absolutely. But also the need for speed, for efficiency, agility. How quickly can we turn up services? How easily can we manage the infrastructure? All of these things are just becoming more and more of a focus as these things continue to expand. We look here at just global IP traffic growth, and this shows you by region where the growth is happening. This data is actually fairly relevant. It's from March of 2020. The numbers, as you can see, it's just a hockey stick continuing to go up. And so really what we're seeing is that the growth rates are happening throughout the entire world. So the stresses are not just put on specific areas and specific geos, it's worldwide. And so as we look at this from Extreme, we want to make sure that we're here to provide solutions to help in a lot of these different areas. And that's really what this session is more about. This introduction to market observations was, again, just to level set, to really tell you what you already know. Things are happening faster, bandwidth is growing at an exponential rate. This piece around hyperscalers and the peering DBs, again, as you can see what we have boxed at the bottom there, the number of high-speed links drive the overall bandwidth. And we're right in the mainstream of 100 gig. So there is just a lot of movement toward 100 gig. It's been coming of age, so to speak. I think we're finally now getting to that point where 100 gig is becoming very cost effective and is, again, really mainstream. What's on everyone's mind is around 400 gig. Do we need 400 gig today? Can we afford 400 gig today? I think that is still in a very immature area of the market. We do absolutely have plans to address 400 gig here at Extreme, but we want to make sure that we time it appropriately. And really, what does that mean? That means that we want to have a 400 gig solution when it's viable and when customers are going to start to actually purchase 400 gig in volume. So as you can see where we're at from these graphs today, 100 gig is really the mainstream, and that's where a ton of our focus is around various service provider solutions. So let's just do that. Let's just jump right into these different service provider solutions. We'll take them all one by one, go into some details, and give you what our thoughts are around the strategy. So 3 points. Targeted solutions. We want to address specific use cases. We want to make sure that we've validated these use cases, that we have some differentiation to offer. So that really talks about the fact that we're not going to try to do everything for everyone. We want to pick specific areas where we believe that we have strength, where we can provide that value, and where we can partner with all of our customers to be successful. The second area is around purpose-built. So we don't want to take an enterprise class product and try to jam it into a service provider solution. In most cases, those things don't work out all that well. There are certain aspects and maybe edge deployments and things of that nature where I could use an enterprise class switch with enterprise class features, and quote unquote get away with it. But for the most part, history has shown us it's worked in the opposite direction. We develop solutions that are service provider class solutions that then can actually go and migrate down into the enterprise. But in most cases, we want to make sure that from a feature set perspective, we're not just trying to take an enterprise feature and reclassify it and say, oh, this is now a service provider feature. We don't want to do that because there are specific features that are needed in these different service provider markets. Now, there will be different areas and different solutions as we go through the presentation. You'll see what we're doing, and hopefully that will come to light a little bit easier. And then the last piece is a consistent user experience. So Extreme Cloud IQ is our cloud-based management platform. Don't think about it from a point of delivery. So a cloud management platform is more about the experience, not necessarily the fact that it has to live up in a public cloud or in a private cloud. We have solutions that we're bringing to market here literally within weeks that allow us to run this on-prem. So Extreme Cloud IQ is more about the experience, not necessarily where does it sit. And the goal here is that we have a solution that encompasses automation, management, analytics, telemetry, all the things that are really critical to the network in general, and maybe providing some things that you really don't even know you need. But we really want to show you, especially in the area of analytics and telemetry, the ability to gather data. Recently, Extreme announced the fact that we provide unlimited data with our Extreme Cloud IQ solution. This is very important when we look at telemetry, analytics, ML, AI. We need to have a full data set in order to do all of that cool ML AI to then create some predictability in your networks moving forward. So getting to that point of the self-learning, self-driving network, we're well on our way there. It is a journey, and you can jump on and jump off really wherever you want, wherever you feel comfortable, and whatever meets your needs. So let's look at the addressable markets. I group this into 5 different areas for service providers. The first being the Internet Cloud Exchange provider. The second one, a regional service provider. Then we look at cloud service providers, internet service providers, and the mobile service provider. Now, I know you're sitting back thinking, well, it really doesn't necessarily fall into those exact categories, because in some cases, an IXP is also a CSP, and an RSP could be an ISP, and so there's gray areas between all of these, and we totally recognize that. But from just a categorization, so we can all keep our minds straight about the solutions, we've put them into these areas, but totally understand that the solutions can absolutely overlap, or we can have multiple solutions for a single customer. So as you can see underneath each of these categories, in the IXP market, we have the L2 exchange. For RSPs, it's all about metro aggregation and border routing. The cloud service provider, it's really about the fabric, the data center fabrics. The internet service provider, again, border routing. And the way we address the mobile service provider market is really around our network packet broker technology. We have some really new and exciting things happening there. So stay tuned later in this broadcast for more information on that. It's really good stuff. So let's start in digging a little bit deeper into the internet and cloud exchange provider. Now, I apologize. I know there's a lot of information on the screen. You're trying to look at this. You're trying to process all of this. What are you trying to show me and tell me? Really at a high level, for an IXP or a CSP, 2 different types of solutions, the traditional MPLS, VPLS, and BGP, EVPN. Now we have categorized these, again, we've broken this down into the medium and large internet exchanges, and then the small and medium internet exchanges. So the first question you're asking is, well, what's medium? How big is small? How big is large? Those are, again, arbitrary. and really based on the different geographies, the different customer types that we address. So in one geography, something that is medium could be large in a different geography. So this is really, again, a way to try to delineate and put some structure around the solutions that we have here. So we'll start up there in the medium and large internet exchanges. Today we've been very successful to date with our MLX CER implementations, our SLX 9850 implementations. A lot of this was heritage that was brought into Extreme with the Brocade acquisition. Now, where do we go from there? Well, since the acquisition, we've not stood still. We've been very busy. And so what you can see there is the SLX 9540, the 9640, and the recently introduced 9740. So we have some really good solutions for the medium and large internet exchanges that are looking to increase bandwidth. So I need ultra deep buffer boxes. I'm going to stick with VLL, VPLS, and MPLS. Now there's two schools of thought there. Do I want to change out my hardware and change out my architecture at the same time? Or am I in a situation where I have a very solid infrastructure, I have a very solid architecture, I just need more bandwidth. I need more ports, I need more pipes. In that case, you can see that we have some really, really good solutions there that now can take you from an MLX that had a limited number of 100 gig ports into an SLX 9740, the 80 port version in 2U. So 80 100 gig ports in a 2U form factor. Obviously, advances in technology give us a lot of opportunities there. If we look at the small and medium internet exchanges, we're looking at really three different options, three different solutions. This could be an all XOS solution. We have a lot of internet exchanges around the world that are already using a lot of the XOS platforms. Option two would be an SLX solution. Using 9150, 9250, again, switches that have been introduced here just in calendar year, this calendar year, I should say. And then option three is combining the two. And we're working very fast and feverishly to get those solutions fully vetted and fully validated before the end of this year, 2020, again, to offer some choice. Now, in the small and medium internet exchanges, shallow buffer boxes using BGP, EVPN with VXLAN is a very viable solution. So you can see that, two different options, two different solutions. We're not saying one is better than the other. A lot of it will, or most of it actually, will boil down to the use case, the requirements, and what are the needs. But when we look at a smaller or medium internet exchange, cost could become a major factor. So we want to make sure, can we provide the most cost-effective solution that still fits the requirements and fits the needs? And it's not to say that the medium and large internet exchanges are also not cost conscious. However, because of sheer size and volume, moving to a deep buffer box is probably going to be a requirement. So as you can see, a lot of different options here. Well, I won't say a lot. We'll say a few different options. We don't want to make it too confusing, but we want to make sure that we provide some choice. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. That's very, very important for us. Now, from a feature set perspective, both for BGP, EVPN, and for VPLS, MPLS, I think we're in great shape. Are there always things that we can add? For sure. That's always going to happen. And we'll continue to add features throughout the coming quarters. Talked about earlier on a roadmap session, you're going to see a release every quarter. So whether it's SLXOS, whether it's XOS, every quarter you'll see a feature release. We try to put as many critical features into those releases to really fill any of the gaps that we may have in the solutions, to add more value, add more feature capability to the solutions. And again, this is from a service provider perspective. What are those features we need to make sure that we're able to put forth the solution that really provides value and really makes your life easier. So now let's talk about the cloud service provider. We do have, again, from our heritage coming over from Brocade, a lot of cloud service providers that today may be running the VDX and VCS solution. That transition strategy, how do I move that into an IP fabric in the data center? We've got that whole process nailed down, so the transition can really be painless. It's really about planning. 95% of the transition is making sure it's planned properly, and 5% is really just on the execution of how we transition. And that really goes for any technology. So whether it's VCS that's sitting down there in that gray box, or it's any other technology, any other solution, we've really put a lot of effort into how do we transition into an IP fabric. And so from a cloud service provider perspective, spine leaf topology, border leafs, high density 25 gig, high density 100 gig. This is really the bread and butter of what the IP fabric is all about. The second thing that we do on top of this is all about extreme fabric automation. So we're unique in the industry in the fact that we're the only player to provide automation for a fabric at no additional cost. So extreme fabric automation is a feature. It's not a product. You can't buy it. But what it does is simplify day 0, day 1, day 2 for provisioning and management of the fabric. So I don't really have to provision any BGP peers. I don't have to create VTEPs. I don't have to create VXLAN tunnels. I can simply provision the fabric with a couple of simple commands. We can then add in all of the services, be it servers attached in with MLAG type connections. All of that stuff can all be done within EFA. So we've talked a lot through Virtual Connect around the effortless experience. How can we make your experience effortless? Now, that doesn't mean that everything will just happen automatically for you. There's still going to be some work that has to be done, but what we really want to get to is a point of taking as much of the complexity out, taking as much of the time it takes out of that process. So how can I take something that if I have to create a fabric by hand, manually, through the CLI, it might take me 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. It might take me 2 days. How can I shrink that time down to less than 5 minutes? And that's what this automation is all about. So not only can we provide the cloud service provider the solution that now gives substantially more bandwidth. So whether I want 100 gig servers, 25 gig servers, 10 gig servers, I want to create 100 gig backbone, multiple 100 gig connections, all of that absolutely possible with the solutions we have within the SLX portfolio. And at the very bottom, didn't want to forget border routing. So I create this great fabric, but I have to get in and out of that fabric, out to the internet, out to my customers. And so SLX 9640 is perfectly positioned as that border router. So I can take multiple full internet tables across multiple VRFs on the 9640, do all of the routing, a lot of capabilities, what we can provide there. So again, just didn't want to forget about the fact that, oh yeah, we still need a router once we get in and out of that fabric to route everywhere else. So very strong cloud service provider offering centered around BGP and EVPN. We'll jump to the internet service provider. So a traditional internet service provider is really focused on border routing. A lot of customers have MLX CERs in place today for that solution, the ISPs. And again, you can kind of see the same characters here with the 9740, the 9640, 9540, providing border routing solutions for the ISP. So the idea here is having a scalable platforms. Now, all three of these solutions, the 97, the 96, and the 9540, all run the same exact operating system, run the same image. So I don't have different images. We keep it very simple, very easy, so that when I have an environment that's mixed, I don't have to worry about, do I have the right image for the right routing platform? It's all the same image. And really it comes down to scalability. So do I need, do I need just 1 million or 1.5 million routes? Do I need 5 million routes? Do I need 3 million routes? What are those scalability numbers? And that's really what the border routing solution comes down to. So all the capabilities are there from a feature set standpoint, whether it's doing eBGP, IBGP, all of those types of good things, massively scalable ACL capabilities, all the mainstays of what a border router needs. And now really I can pick my solution based on what are the connectivity requirements that I have to have. The 9640 is a very versatile platform, 24 ports of 1/10 gig with 12 ports of 100 gig. Maybe I need something bigger, 9740, either 40 or 80 ports of 100 gig. 9540 on the lower end, 6 ports of 100 gig with 48 ports of 1/10 gig. So it really gives you a nice choice to figure out what is the right solution. And for most of our ISPs, it's actually a mixture because for them too, in the architecture, it's not a one size fits all. I need some higher aggregation capabilities in certain areas, lower aggregation, lower bandwidth capabilities in other areas. So we can really put together a very nice solution to fit the right product for the right purpose for this entire use case. So let's move on to the mobile service provider. As I mentioned earlier, we're coming out with a new packet broker solution. This will happen in the first half of calendar year 21. We are all very excited about the capabilities of what we can do with our packet broker technology. We introduced this back in the days of MLX. We then added some of the SLX capabilities on the 9140, 9240. Now this is a little bit different product line. This was originally brought to market to do two things. One was for packet broker. The other was for your basic IP fabric spine leaf topology. And one of the cool things about 9140 and 9240 is the fact that it has a programmable pipeline. So we literally can boot this box into being an IP fabric switch or into being a switch that will run in a network packet broker solution. So having a programmable pipeline gives us a lot of flexibility. So 9140, 9240 are not going to be used as much for an IP fabric since we've introduced the 9150 and the 9250. It's kind of the next gen for IP fabric. But for packet broker, it's still a very viable and a long-term solution in our strategy. So 9240 is 32 ports, 100 gig. 9140 is 48 ports of 10 gig and 6 ports of 100 gig. So that still plays into the packet broker solution, but now we're bringing out a new chassis with high density 100 gig capabilities, a ton of programmability and feature set capabilities. So, really network packet broker is all about, how do I get all of that data into these boxes? How do I then parse the data intelligently and send it out to different tools within the infrastructure? Now, sitting on top of that is Extreme Visibility Manager. So Extreme Visibility Manager gives us a nice GUI interface for managing, for provisioning the network packet broker solution. And so with the introduction of the 9920, which is the new name for the new packet broker, we will have a next generation Extreme Visibility Manager solution that sits on top to do all of that provisioning. And of course, we will then add capabilities to manage and support the 9140, the 9240, and even the existing legacy MLX technology that sits in this packet broker network overall. So again, very excited about the things that we're doing around packet broker. I think it really is going to put us into a whole new category of what we can do in this use case. And again, this isn't necessarily just targeted for mobile service providers. This is where we've been very successful in the past, and we'll continue to work in this space. But the packet broker technology can be used across any customer really, and really not just service provider. It could be an enterprise also. But again, this is where we've gained a lot of traction, and we've got a solution that is really tuned and fine-tuned for this environment. All right, now let's jump into the regional service provider. This is where we have a lot more different options and a lot more different solutions. So as you can see there on the left-hand side, we've got 4 different boxes: MPLS, BGP, G832, SPV. This is really not a one-size-fits-all. So this really talks to the fact of what's the use case, where do you want to go, where are you at? We have a lot of RSPs that are running on MLXs and CERs. Some have 9850s. Again, looks like that same transition strategy: 9740, 9540, 9640. Deep buffer boxes, MPLS and VPLS architectures. Then below that, we have G8032. So ring technologies, in the days of MLX and CER, we did MRP as a ring technology. Moving forward, because that was proprietary, we're going to go, and we have gone, I should say, to a standards-based G8032 implementation. So again, feature sets will translate over. The G8032 solution will be brought to the 9740 in early next year. It's there today on the 95 and 9640, and it's really just a matter of slotting that into the roadmap and getting that thing tied off into the 9740. But if you're looking for a ring technology solution, very solid here with what we have for G8032. All right, let's move down to the next area, which is BGP EVPN. So we definitely have a lot of interest in the regional service providers that want to move to a VXLAN solution. So this is somewhat of a work in progress. I would say that we have solutions available today. Again, not necessarily ubiquitous across every possible size of customer and use case, but we have some implementations today, very successful, as long as we are in constraints of what the design are. So this is not just I have an MPLS network and I can just necessarily slap in a VXLAN network and away we go. We have to do the due diligence. We have to make sure the design is correct. And it's just like everything else. If we plan this out correctly, if we understand the requirements, we understand the use case, what we need to do, we absolutely can be successful. So again, it's just really common sense of what we want to be able to do to make sure that let's do the due diligence up front. Let's make sure it's going to work. Let's put the right products in the right position to make sure we're successful. So, when we look at this solution and you think about BGP, EVPN, VXLAN, first thing that comes to your head is, oh, it's a spine leaf topology in a data center. So now we're taking that technology and we're taking out of a spine leaf, because it doesn't necessarily have to be, and most cases won't be because of the way physical fiber runs. And so let's put it into a different topology, but let's use the same technologies. And so, the argument back and forth, should I do MPLS, should I do VXLAN, is really up to you. Whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever place you want to go, that's the solution that we want to make sure we have in place. Now, the one thing we talked about in the cloud service provider session was extreme fabric automation. So it supports the data center topologies today. Moving into next year, we'll add some other topologies supported use cases, including that for the regional service provider that wants to do BGP, EVPN, and VXLAN. And again, don't want to forget the border routing piece, even on the previous slide with MPLS or G8032, here also with VXLAN. 9640 fits in very nicely as a border router to tie these solutions in. And something new that we are in the process of finalizing and rolling out is what we're calling broadband transport networking. So this is our implementation of SPB to create a very simple and easy regional service provider network. So this really takes it to the whole next level of the easy button. You know, the technology allows us really just to provision at the edge, at the core, auto provisioning at the edge, and boom, we're done. So if you leave the technology aside for just a minute and think about what it is that I have to do. I have to turn up services very quickly. That has to happen immediately. When I turn up those services, I need to make sure that I have security and security from maybe a standpoint of traffic separation. So I want to ensure that my traffic is isolated and we're not going to have any kind of mixing of traffic. I want to make sure I can control if and when that mixing happens. And that's really what this broadband transport networking is all about. And unfortunately, a slide doesn't do it justice. This is really something that you have to see in action. Seeing is believing. And so for networks that could get very complex very quickly, this reduces that complexity down to, I won't say zero, but very, very, very little complexity. And especially in networks where multicast is required, the technologies we have within the broadband transport networking do multicast better than any other solution on the planet, bar none. And again, that's something you're going to have to see to believe. Easy for me to say this, you know, during our webcast session and show you a slide, but really it is seeing is believing. And as you can see on the right-hand side there, we've got 1 gig aggregation, 10 and 25 gig aggregation, 40 and 100 gig aggregation. So speeds and feeds, you know, do we have those covered? Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape from that perspective. But this is a twist. This is something that is really unique to Extreme, something that no one else can provide for a regional service provider. And this is not just for a small regional service provider. This is massively scalable. So we're talking hundreds and hundreds of switches can participate in this network with, you know, this transparent and seamless provisioning at the edge. So don't think about this as just kind of a sandbox, little niche solution for just the small areas. Absolutely not. I mean, this will scale massively. So hopefully I've piqued your interest enough and you can reach out to your local Extreme teams and ping them and ask them what this is all about. Because like I said, seeing this is really believing, and it will really make you think about what it is I'm trying to accomplish. Ease of deployment, ease of management, ease of provisioning. And you know, we keep talking about the effortless experience and the user experience. That's really what we're after here. This is not so much about how it all works inside, all the protocols and all that kind of good stuff. I mean, obviously very important to enable this, but it's really about your user experience and how we can make it easier for you. So something to think about, something different that, again, no one else is talking about or doing. So let's spend just a couple of minutes here as we wrap up and talk about some futures. I'm sure you've seen this slide many times, so I'm not going to bore you with more information around the effortless experience, but it is important to understand that that is our goal. Our goal is to simplify your life as much as possible. And it can be all the way from just how we do licensing to how we do maintenance to how we do warranties to how we manage it. It's the entire life cycle of what we're trying to do, how you procure things, how you RMA. All of those things are being taken into consideration here. So this is not just a tagline that says, oh, you know, it's all about just a single pane of glass management. No, I mean, that's a piece of it, but that's only a small piece. There's so much more to it. And hopefully, you know, during your time here at Virtual Connect, you've been able to attend a lot of sessions that really shows you this stuff in action. This is not just a talk, but we're walking this talk. So one of the pieces around that effortless experience is universal hardware. Talked about this in a previous session, so I won't spend too much time here, but what you'll see is we will continue to offer new universal hardware platforms, consolidating the amount of SKUs. So now I can buy a box. I don't have to worry, did I buy the right box? Was I supposed to buy a VSP or an SLX or a Summit, or because each runs different OS, and if I want to change my topology, then I have to change my box out, rip and replace, costly, don't want to do that. So now with this technology, we'll be able to run multiple OSs on the same hardware. So we can change the persona of the box from an OS perspective. So a lot of flexibility. So let's say that you decided you wanted to run BGP, EVPN, and then 6 months later, you want to flip to broadband transport networking. Well, with these boxes, especially the ones over at the right-hand side, the core AG and DC switching boxes, you can do that without ripping out the hardware. So think about that. I could change my technology, I could change my architecture, and I don't have to rip and replace boxes. Now, you're sitting back thinking, okay, but that's not practical in my network because I can't just turn a box off and flip it and turn it back on. Okay, I understand. There are some limitations. And so in the practical part of the world, can I actually just flip the box over? Maybe yes, maybe no. But the idea here is that I have that flexibility. And so based on how I've designed the architecture, yeah, maybe I can do that. So a lot of things happening. We covered some stuff in the roadmap slides at a high level. Again, I just want to reiterate, software releases coming every quarter. So what I want to make sure of is that we have a good cadence of software releases, and I want to make sure that you can count on the fact that every quarter you're going to get a software release. And it's not the typical what's happened maybe in the past with us, with pretty much everybody, is that releases slip. And all of a sudden, a release that was going to happen in 6 months now is pushed out and not going to happen for 9 or 12 months. We want to make sure that we create the cadence so that you can depend on that. And I think it's very important. It's not to say that you're going to upgrade every quarter. Nobody in their right mind will upgrade every quarter. I get that. But we're going to make sure we add those features so that you can target specific releases that, oh, these are the 3 things I need. I'm going to go after that release. I can count on the fact that it's going to come in this quarter. So that's really what we want to get to, is having that type of dependability. So lastly, let's just talk about a technology trend. And so something that we see here is the fact that 5G is in its infancy. But what 5G is going to do is unlocking a tremendous amount of data. Now, what does that mean? Well, that's a good problem for the service providers, because now I'm going to have more business, but it means I'm also going to stress my networks out a bit more. The thing that we're seeing is that massive amount of data, how do I transport that all back to data centers? That's going to be a challenge. So the advent of these micro data centers, really just a marketing term, and edge computing really says I'm just moving my resources out, moving it out closer to the users. So mobile edge computing, autonomous automobiles, you're thinking, well, how does that fit in? Well, autonomous automobiles are going to generate tremendous amounts of data, data that will be collected. Where am I going to collect that? How am I going to aggregate all that information? So kind of start to see that. And there still is and continues to be a trend to move applications closer to the end users. So your traditional data center within 4 walls, well, that kind of got blown up a while ago when we started moving to multi-cloud and hybrid cloud solutions, where I could burst to the cloud and I could put some stuff out there and bring it back and things of that nature. So the data center kind of expanded on us already. And now that is even expanding further. And it's not to say we're going to get rid of centralized data centers. They will still be there. They'll still be very important. But we're going to have more of a distributed nature. So thinking about, maybe in an MSP environment, what does that mean? Well, that means I'm going to have a lot of data centers geographically dispersed, which always provides a challenge for management. So having a solution that we talked about earlier with Extreme Cloud IQ gives us the ability to manage this holistically. So we've talked for many years about the virtual data center and looking at it as one entity, but this really takes it to a whole nother level. So having a management infrastructure that can scale to a much higher degree is going to be critical. So I have a whole bunch of these micro data centers. I have my main data center, I have the public cloud, and all of a sudden now everything in that gray box really is a single data center. We're moving things, continually moving things out. But I want to make sure that you have a consistent user experience so that whether you're managing or provisioning your main data center, your public cloud, or your micro data centers, it's all one holistic user experience. The other piece that will come into play, continue to come into play, telemetry and analytics. So I want to make sure that I have information. I know what's happening across my network. And not just from a bandwidth utilization perspective. We've been doing that forever. So that's not anything exciting. But the ability to collect data, use that data, employ machine learning, put some AI around that to provide you vital information, predictability, predictiveness of your network. Wouldn't it be nice to know it's going to break before it does? Put you in a much better position. Reacting is tough. We've been doing NMS for a long time, and when the box turns red, well, we know it's down, and that's kind of late. I would like to see the box going yellow and somebody telling me, hey, I think I'm going to have a problem here. Maybe we need to take a look. That's really what this telemetry and analytics is all about. It's about giving you information ahead of time. I mean, simple things like predicting when an optic's going to fail. We have all the characteristics of years and years of experience. And so we have a pretty good idea of when an optic is going to fail. Now, the network is built with all this type of redundancy and all this kind of good stuff. So, in theory, it shouldn't affect us. But it would still be nice to know that within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we have about an 80%, 90% confidence level that optic's going to fail or cause a problem. So now I can schedule something to go out there and fix it. And again, think about an optic that doesn't fail. It only kind of fails. It flaps. Oh man, that's the worst thing to have. So having predictive capabilities across your network is some of these things like, oh yeah, we'll never get there. But no, we're there. I mean, we have all of this information. We have all the telemetry. Now it's really, let's pump this into Cloud IQ. Let's run it through ML and AI, and let's throw out some great information to put you in a much better position to manage the network. So you talk about the effortless experience, and I keep saying that. But the effortless experience is really about how can I become more efficient? How can I do more with less? How can I ensure that the network's going to tell me when it's going to have a problem or there's an issue versus me having to go dig around and trying to find that? How much time do you spend troubleshooting, going to try to find, we've got a problem, where is that problem, right? Sometimes it's like a needle in a haystack. So the technologies are all there. Things are happening, going faster, right? More bandwidth. We've talked a lot about that. These type of technology trends add to the complexity. So as things get more complex, it's up to us to provide you solutions and capabilities to reduce that complexity, to abstract that complexity away. So all of that stuff will still be happening. Absolutely, let it happen. But now I've got something on top where I'm in much better position in control. And so again, the self-learning, self-driving network, I mean, we're there. We have those capabilities, and it's really up to you. when are you ready to jump on board? Because we're here to really make your life easier. So hopefully this has been a good session. I didn't want to try to kill everyone with a bunch of PowerPoint slides. I want to make sure that we did a good overview of some of our thoughts, our solutions, where we see things going in the future. I think we're very, very excited here at Extreme that we have some solid service provider solutions that we're going to continue to work on and enhance and provide more capabilities for you. So I hope you enjoy the rest of Virtual Connect, and thanks for your time.